Hi, it's Jocelyn Jovan with Black Enterprise, and we are here with the executive producer of Games People Play, Tracey Edmonds. How are you?
Hello. I am so good. It's great to be with you guys.
Yeah, I'm just an overall fan of your work over the years, and it's really such a pleasure to connect with you, a Black woman in media, really out here putting on and giving opportunities to people left and right all the time.
Well, thank you. And I'm a big fan of Black Enterprise, and it's nice to personally meet you and stuff. And so I love everything you guys have done in your history and your legacy as well. So,
Yes.
yes.
Thank you so much. So we're in season 2 of Games People Play. What can you say about the level, the production level and the storylines as it relates to season 1? Like, did you want to up the production a bit with the storylines? Was there anything you went into this season knowing that you wanted to elevate, or you had a formula that you're like, we're going to keep this, it works?
Well, you know what? Let me kind of explain the interesting dynamics that went on for season 2. And so, first of all, as a producer, with each season, you want to like keep rising and you want to get better and better and go deeper and deeper with these characters. But we paused for quite a while in between season 1 and season 2 because there were a lot of dynamics going on that were out of our control. You know, first of all, sadly, Lauren London, our Vanessa, lost Nipsey. So we paused a little bit, for that, to try to give her a chance to, to lift back up and recover. And, obviously that was a crazy, tragedy, and our hearts were just broken for her. And then beyond that, we had the pandemic going on in the world. And so we had a false start on season 2 where we were in Los Angeles and we had gotten our scripts together for season 2 and our pre-production. And 2 weeks before we were supposed to start shooting in LA, the pandemic happened and LA went on lockdown. And so, we, our city shut down, we couldn't do any production work, and we lost quite a few months, with the lockdown. And so what we did though, is we utilized that time and really focused on the scripts. And so we were able to really spend that quiet time, during the pandemic, doing virtual writers' rooms. And really for this season, going deeper and deeper and deeper, into our characters' storylines and their arcs and their journeys and all the twists and turns. And I can tell you that the scripts that we started off with, that we thought we were shooting, before the pandemic, look hardly nothing like the scripts that we ended up, shooting in production, because we had that much more time to focus on plots and storylines and dig into things like the foundation, what's that all about? And, how did Eric die? And, what was that about? And Layla's history, with Jason, and, the Marcus and Eden relationship, and, introducing this fabulous, smart new boss lady, into the equation, and, figuring out the dynamics that would exist. You've got these 2 really hot, sexy people here. You've got Marcus King, who's head of the Vipers, and you've got Eden Laszlo, who is running operations for the team. And how long will these 2 beautiful, sexy people be able to coexist business-wise before some attraction, may develop? And once that attraction develops, can they resist each other with all the dynamics going on in their personal lives and stuff? And so we had a chance to really kind of have some fun with, with those characters too. And then introducing new characters. Hitman Hala joined the cast playing Romello. And so I think he did an amazing job for us. And we were super excited to have him, become Marcus's nemesis, on the team. And so we got a chance to have some fun during the pandemic, exploring that, exploring the dynamics between Nia and MJ, and their friendship and, their working relationship, and, with the tentacles of the foundation, touching them, would they survive? and then really dive deep too into Kareem, and Quanisha.
Yeah.
And so, we had a lot of fun with that relationship, and, of course, Quanisha is a little spitfire, and smart, as well. And so it was really fun, even last night, because I always tweet live, when the episodes air, and I'm tweeting with people and then watching their reactions and stuff. And they really seem to really enjoy Kareem and Quanisha, and Quanisha's character, how like she's strong and looking after her man and not backing down, and watching the commentary, and then also watching the commentary about Layla and them really discovering, what happened, in Layla's past that they didn't know about in season 1, that really informed and steered Layla as a woman, and her perspective on relationships and seeming broken. And now we understand what happened and why. And then really exploring what rape victims have to deal with, not only the trauma of going through the rape, but being brave enough to come forward, and how, whether it's generated from attorneys or the media, how they become, the targeted ones, because, their reputations are put into question falsely a lot of times for the sake of protecting their, the accuser.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the Games People Play is based off of the book Games Divas Play. And when going into season 2, how much of the book was actually incorporated into the storylines? And when you were just even describing some of the characters and how you wanted to elevate their persona, just their story on the screen, what dynamics did you know that you wanted to tackle, like when it comes to the rape and even just, newlyweds and people being engaged and how their, relationships? Was it things you were pulling from the book, for those of us that don't know? Or was it that you were like, okay, we should touch on this, and vice versa?
Well, truthfully, the dynamics in the book were pretty much explored and played out in season 1. And we kind of even changed a few things in season 1 that weren't quite in the book, but the book definitely, inspired the chain of events that happened in season 1, the murder of Kalinda. We kind of did some different things in terms of the mystery of who did it and who didn't do it, and the red herrings that we kind of put in there, as to who killed Kalinda and stuff. A lot of that was not in the book. Now, this season, there's pretty much very little of the book, inside this season. So this season, we just wanted to dive deeper into the characters themselves, and we just really got creative. And so we spent a lot of time during the pandemic, just kind of brainstorming about Layla's past, Nia, Marcus and his emotional journey and all of that kind of stuff. And we're able to kind of come up with what you now see on screen. The other thing too, that was brand new to storytelling, was our introduction of this secret society called the Foundation, and so that was, really inspired by, I think, the world's curiosity about, these kind of secret societies. And like, if you look on social media and on YouTube, there's tons of videos on these. There's, a million TikTok videos and YouTube videos and, and tweets and all of that. And, blog articles, there's questioning, questions about the Illuminati and, and what celebrities, are potentially in there, and the symbolism in videos and all that kind of stuff. So we definitely knew that there is interest in that topic, so we thought, okay, so why don't we, explore that? And, if there was, a cult or a secret society like that, how would it work?
Yeah.
So we decided to create the Foundation, and then have a lot of fun with exploring the dynamics of a secret society like that, and connecting those tentacles to all of our characters.
Yeah, it's really interesting, just the levels that you're tackling in season two. And with, like you mentioned, Hitman Holla, which I know him from battle rap. I'm a battle rap fan.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to like, see him in a character role, like acting. And, I saw you have the Housewives, you had Kenya and
Yes.
Cynthia Bailey. How did you go about the guest roles in season two? There's so many familiar faces. Like, how were those decisions made?
Yeah, so we wrote all the scripts, and so we had all the storylines and all the characters and stuff. And when we wrote everything, we didn't necessarily have casting in mind. So we just kind of wrote these characters for the characters' perspectives, and not necessarily keeping in mind that so and so would be playing, these characters. So once we finished all the scripts and we went to casting, I did what I normally do. Just I love working with people that are just like in my lives, in my life already, and so I had a long-standing history with Kenya Moore. Like I knew Kenya pre-Housewives, so I've known her for decades, and we've been, celebrating each other's birthdays for years and all that kind of stuff. And so I know Kenya too is also what I call a hidden actress that needs to, just keep going with the acting thing, as well as, this reality star. So when we came to casting Marcus's dad's surprise love interest, we thought Kenya would be a lot of fun, and I knew Kenya's sense of humor too, and thought she'd be able to really kind of create a really fun character, with this. And then speaking of Marcus's father, Walter, Leon and I have an old friendship, and so and I just love him as an actor. And I love when he first appeared on screen this season and watching Black Twitter. And, and Black Twitter was like, oh no, 5 heartbeats, oh no, temptation. And then memes were popping up so fast. I was like, oh my God, how do you guys create these memes this fast?
I know. I'm still amazed at how fast a meme can be created.
I know. And so they loved seeing him. And I was like looking at the tweets, they're like, I hope he's in a bunch of episodes. I hope it's not just this episode. So, and then Hitman Holla, like, when Romello was first introduced and they recognized Hitman, like, they were really, really excited to see him, go into acting as well. I have to thank my fiance, Deion, for introducing me to Hitman, because I didn't know him. Yeah, he actually, because I was telling him about this character and I was like, we need somebody that can play basketball for real, but knows how to talk SHIT. And he was like, oh, Hitman.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a fun fact.
Yeah, so he actually helped me with him. And then also too, we were looking for someone to play Kareem's kind of like co-host.
Yeah.
And so he introduced me to Ro Parrish, who was amazing, this season, and we had a lot of fun with, the chemistry between Jackie Long and Ro Parrish and stuff. And so yeah. And then, Eden, Carucci, someone that I've been dying to work with for a long time. She and I, when I was hosting Extra years ago, she came on and I had a chance to interview her, and she's just such a beautiful human being, like inside and out. And so we needed someone that was not only, eye candy, to look at, but somebody that could really pull off this boss lady persona, that Eden Laszlo is. And we were just really, fortunate and blessed that she was a fan of the show and said, count me in, she signed on. And it's been amazing this season because, the whole cast, they're all friends. But this season, it just really seemed like everybody truly, truly became family. We shot in Atlanta this season because of the COVID restrictions in LA. And we were all like fish out of water. We were all like, we're all LA people, and so we got moved, over to Atlanta for almost 6 months. Yeah. And the cast really became a family. Like they were all hanging out together and celebrating birthdays together and kicking it at each other's cribs. And, and the closer they became, like, the more beautiful dynamic, went on camera too. And so like their chemistry was so good. The timing on lines and jokes and everything, like just worked even more beautifully this season.
That's amazing. What would you say is the overall theme of season two?
Well, we're calling it love, lies, and loyalty.
Mm,
And so trust, is definitely like a really important theme. This season, it's like with every single character, it's like there's someone in their lives that we don't know whether they can trust them or not. And so the whole loyalty thing, is really important because like every time you kind of think that, this person can be trusted, there's something that they do, an action that they, take or a step they take that makes you question it. But I think that's true in life a lot of times. It's like, I think we all have people that kind of
yeah.
surround us that are in our circle and they may do something or say something. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay. I just took notes on that, what you just said, and I'm gonna watch you. So,
Eyes.
yes, exactly.
So when considering just your overall your library of work, you have always provided just a authentic depiction of Black culture that just instantly comes off relatable. It's just
Nice
it's
to
not
hear.
it's seriously, it's not forced. It's just natural, because especially as Black people, will watch different things, and there's just certain things that it captures. It's like soul food. Oh no, like classic. And with you being in the industry for over 2 decades, like active releasing projects that we all engage with, you've seen this transition because now we're actually seeing more of what you were one of the early gatekeepers to do. Now taking it back, was it a challenge? Was it hard for you to like find the support and resources you need to do what you did at that time when it wasn't so normalized with creating authentic representations of Black culture?
Yeah. And you know what? And I thank you so much for acknowledging that or taking note of that. The projects that I've chosen to always be involved with are the ones that the stories, the characters that I can personally connect with, that there's something that has happened to me in my own personal life that I can tap into and help creatively produce onto screen. And so whether it's soul food, early on, Big Mama was, she reminded me of my grandmother, and the family dinners and the Thanksgivings that, that we had. And there were sibling rivalry issues going on in that, in the storylines of soul food. And, there's a little bit of things that happen with relatives
Yeah,
that come into play, like when you're like developing the script, jumping the broom,
all of it.
loosely based on something that I went through, in my life, and even, when it comes to games people play, there was a lot about Vanessa that I connected with, kind of, being a female and kind of like having a relationship that's quote in the spotlight, where people are always watching you and kind of approaching you, and you never know who's real or who's not and who you can trust and who you can't, and all of the factors that come into play in those high profile relationships, from infidelity, issues, to all the people that are trying to get your man, to, the hanger honors that you don't know are really in there for true friendship, and really have your back, or if they're looking for the opportunity there, so I felt like having kind of gone through some of those life experiences, that I could bring something creatively to a show like this. And so, the writers will attest, there's a lot of times that I pop into the writer's room and, kind of be like, hey, all right, here's the story, of something I went through. What if we had Vanessa, and so the people that know me, will be able to kind of look at little things and be like, oh, I know where she got that from.
Ah, it's
So,
it's relatable. I just the other day, my friend she told me, she like confided and told me something. And I was like, oh, cousin Faith. I called her cousin Faith.
Oh my God. And what is so funny is I had a cousin like that too. I had a cousin like that where I would never trust that cousin around my man.
It's just the way that you're able to incorporate that, and it's like we get it
Yes.
instantly, we get it, and you've been able to do that at times when it wasn't just the normal thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. I mean, going back to the era of soul food, you have to kind of like realize that where movie culture was, at that time. And so that when I'm pitching that predated Exhale, Love Jones, any of those types of movies or whatever. We were in like the Boys in the Hoods, that type of era, Menace to Society. And so that's the depiction of Black culture that Hollywood was used to at that time. And so it's like the shoot 'em up, the drug dealing, the gang violence, all that. And so when I was out pitching soul food, they were looking at me like I was crazy. They were like, well, what makes you think somebody wants to watch a movie about a Black family? Where's the drama? Who's your audience? Because there weren't any comps. They look at comparable films that have done well so that they can justify greenlighting your movie. And we didn't have any comparable films. Like we were kind of like the first one, so it was a hard sell. And I was turned down by, the majority of every single film studio. And finally, there was a division at Fox 2000 headed up by Laura Ziskin, rest in peace, who believed in me as a producer and the story there, and who was willing to take a chance with a film like this. And so for me, it is so important to explore all aspects of Black culture, not just the negative ones, the negative, ones that are probably, on the surface more dramatic. No, we exist in all different dimensions, in all different shades of, emotional color, of socioeconomic success, everything. And I choose to explore us probably in a more positive light, than other producers, may choose. And I respect everyone's craft, but it's important for me as a producer to work on stories that are based on, we're all flawed. And so it's okay for all of our characters to be flawed because we're flawed in real life. I am. But I want to show people that are aspirational and inspirational and, want to be successful and try to be successful and are successful. And, so that we can see that we are really interesting, strong, human beings. And, Black culture, we're successful, we love, we have family, we have successful careers. And I like depicting that side of us.
You always have. You always have. And in the last year, especially last year in wake of George Floyd, we saw this transition not in just Hollywood, over corporate America, where there's a more interest in supporting Black owned anything, and especially in Hollywood. And sometimes it can kind of come off, is it a trend or is it genuine? And you, having been in the industry, would you say it's something that it's not so much of a trend, or it's been a steady progression in the entertainment industry, where now we're starting to see more Black filmmakers, Black stories, Black creatives being able to tell their stories, and storytellers sharing their works across music, film? What
I think it's been a steady progression, and I think the door has been like opening up more and more, as each year goes by. I definitely think that sadly, the tragedy of George Floyd did help open the door even more, where, sadly, hopefully, the interest in telling more Black stories is genuine, but, it could be, out of mandate. But regardless, it still gives us more opportunities, as Black filmmakers. The beautiful thing, though, is going back to what we were saying about being able to tell more positive stories, with different successful dimensions, I think that door is starting to open up a bit more. Although thematically right now, if I were to keep it real, there is I think a mandate going on to kind of tell these racially charged stories, and so, those are probably getting greenlit even faster than the kind of content that I create. Because, I want to just kind of create entertainment where people can escape some of the craziness that's going on in the world and the negativity going on in the world, with for an hour, they don't have to think about that. I don't want them to have to watch that again while it's going on in real life. I'm like,
Exactly.
let me give people a break and something more hopeful.
And thank you for that. That's when I'm turning on the TV, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And you've kind of mentioned it throughout this conversation, but I wanted to know, you do such a good job at, like I said, just relating to what's current. How do you stay tapped in to what is current?
You know what? I love you for asking that question, because like my kids would be able to answer that question in 2 seconds. I am such a nerd in terms of what is going on in the world and society, and I'm curious. Like, I'm a really curious creature. And so, so as soon as I wake up in the morning, I am looking at everything going on in the news internationally, what's going on in our culture, and I'm doing a deep dive, because I don't even watch mainstream news that much anymore, because I really think a lot of it's propaganda, to be honest with you. So I kind of do my own critical thinking and my own research on everything. And so I do that. That's the first thing that I do, is to kind of get the information of what's going on in culture and society and news and all that kind of stuff. Then I do what I call my little urban pop culture dive. And so my guilty pleasure is part 2, where I'm on all the Black blogs. So I'm on shout out. I'm on the gossips and the shade rooms and the media takeouts, and I'll give TMZ. They're usually last.
Oh, that's so funny.
But what that does is it keeps me close to Black culture, urban culture. What's going on in the streets? What do people think about this person, that person? I read the comments because I want to know, what do real people think about all of this? And so, so that kind of keeps me close to, what is really going on, in culture. Even as each year I'm getting older and older, it kind of like keeps me, my finger to the pulse of like what's going on in the streets and all of that. And so, and that also helps influence even like me as a producer when it comes to casting, and stuff. Like I'm able to be, oh, well, they like this person. Oh, well,
right. Because I can see that with the cast. I was like, oh, she knew. They knew who to tap into. Even with Hitman Holla, it was like, that's pretty cool, because you wouldn't necessarily expect to see him cast in a TV show. So whoever made that decision, they had to know, like, actually he's relevant, he's likable, people hate him, and he has talent.
Yeah.
So
the same thing even with Kendall, like in
Kendall. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and who's turned out to be a wonderful actor, and he's like one of my closest guy friends. I love him so much. I talked to him for a long time yesterday. But you kind of like see people too, like if you're like really watching what's going on, you see who pops. And so Kendall, like, I'm watching him on social media, and before I cast him, he's popping.
I love it. So now you've been doing this for a while, and there's so many people that aspire to do what you do one day, and whether they have been studying it from school or they just have a passion for it, but they didn't necessarily take that route. What would you suggest? Do you think getting into TV and film production, is that something that you should start early on with, like studying it in school, or is it something that a career someone can transition to later in life?
Well, anything is possible, and you can definitely transition, later in life. But I always believe, and I always practice what I preach. And so everything that I advise people to do, stuff that I've done, in my own life and in my own career. True story is my younger self. Like I went to college pre-med. I got a scholarship to Stanford. And I studied, psychobiology. I thought I was going to be a psychiatrist. So I thought I was going to go on to medical school. So God had another plan for me. And so, so 2 years after graduating from college is when I met my ex-husband. And that kind of changed my trajectory in terms of like, made me start thinking about the entertainment industry and all that kind of stuff. So once I made the decision, so I kind of entered entertainment industry through music. And so I had a record label and a publishing company. And then I started music supervising films and putting together soundtracks. And that got me into producing. But once I made the producing decision, I didn't go to school for that. But again, I told you I'm a nerd. So I end up taking classes. And so I had two professors from SC that taught me screenwriting and screenplay analysis and directing and all of that. And I just like digested and absorbed, everything that they taught me, and started studying classic films and why these films worked and the ones that didn't. And I've always been passionate about acting and films and stuff, even as a child. So, to kind of be able to dive in and like really learn it and stuff, I did do that. And then the rest is just on-set experience. And so my first movie was Soul Food, and I was in my late 20s, when I did that. And, as much as you can kind of like take classes and ask your professors questions and all that kind of stuff, like the real experience comes from actually being in production and stuff. And so, it was really funny. Like, it's funny when I look back, because doing my first film and having zero, experience, a lot of it comes intuition, a lot of it's like, then you start relying on your intuition. So then when you're casting, you're like, okay, who can I see playing this character? How should these women look, meeting with your costume designers? How should this set look? It's becomes a very visual intuition experience. And so that kind of, and I still kind of carry that through, like, anybody that works with me, from our costume designers to our production designers to our music supervisors, know that I'm very, very closely involved. I'm like approving, the gays people play Cass can tell you, I approve every outfit. And so, yeah, so I had a fabulous costume designer, Rashida Blaylock, that we work with, but I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and she's sending me pictures of what she wants people to wear. And we're like collaborating. We're like, okay, that's cool. Let's fly, but I think really being passionate about what you do and being hands-on, I think is so important.
Yeah, I see it. And even just, with from out off screen, when I see the stuff you post on social media with the cast, I feel that camaraderie. I feel that family that you're saying came into season 2 after already being friends. Then they came into season 2 as family. You feel it. It crosses over on screen.
Yeah, that is absolutely the case. And like I said, like Kendall and I think we were on the phone for like 2 hours yesterday. So,
I love it.
I know. I'm so blessed. I just get to work with the most amazing cast. Sharonis Jackson and I are really good friends, and Jackie Long and I have known each other for so many years. Like, I mean, I could just go on and on about all of them, but yeah, it's really been a great experience.
With you having storylines focused on athletes, I know you said Deion helped you with casting. Does he kind of help you with some of the storyline? Like, no, they should do this, or this is how it would technically go?
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny. True story. There have been times, because Deion, I will say, is the quintessential alpha male. And so like, I'm lucky. And I tell him this all the time. I'm lucky I met Deion in later life. Because Deion, I'm sure the early Deion could have been a little bit more like Marcus King, and I'm glad I got to meet the family man, Deion, I've done all that, been there, done that. And now I am focused. And so, I have a beautiful relationship with him, but I get a chance to kind of ask him. I'll be like, okay, so here's the scenario with Marcus King. If this is going on, like, how would a Marcus King, handle this, and so he's given some good advice, and the writers will attest. He even came into the writer's room when they were writing season 2, and sat with them for like an hour, and they just kind of picked his brain about things and stuff.
Oh my
And so,
goodness.
yeah.
That just makes my heart smile. You guys are so cute, by the way. Like,
Oh,
you're
thank
all, like when
you.
I see you at the games, and I'm like, I know she has to like film, but then you'll make time.
Oh, honey, I'm all over the place.
I know, but it's
Thank
so good. And
you.
then I see he supports you when like when you have a new project coming out, or an announcement, because you have some other stuff coming up too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you so much
you.
for this conversation. I've taken so much from it. I'm really excited to share this with our Black Enterprise readers and viewers. And you really are a beautiful person inside and out. I can tell that. And
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Same with you. Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate you supporting us. And like, hopefully we can do this again, whether it's on this project or something else, because I got some other stuff